Welcome to Uniquely Brilliant, a podcast for creative, quirky, and extraordinary thinkers of all ages and the people who love them. We encourage, inspire, and provide strategies to motivate you to embrace your unique brilliance and realize your potential for success. Hi, I'm Diana Bader, also known as Coach Di. I encourage teens and young adults to become who they are and develop personal success through self-awareness and positivity. You can find me at freshcanvascoaching.com, follow and like the Fresh Canvas Facebook page, or follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Coach Di.
Hello there, I'm Becky Berry. I am a performance coach who helps people level up their lives by smoothing out the relationship between their work lives and their personal lives. You can find my website at beckyberrycoach.com. I'm on Twitter at Becky Berry Coach, and you can find me on my Facebook page, Becky Berry Coach.
Together we are here sharing our thoughts, insights, and experiences from our own uniquely brilliant perspective. All right, it's episode 112, and today the topic is both and.
And we had that written in our notebooks, and we don't remember why we wrote it down. So we're just going to continue the conversation we started like 2 minutes ago, like, why are we doing this? And Diana said...
Yes. All right, so we've been talking about our word.
Right.
Off and on in the last several episodes. And a couple years ago, my word was and. And I had the big ampersand thing all around my rooms.
Oh, yeah. You still do, don't you?
I do. Oh, yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm sure some of them are packed now.
But I keep that as a reminder. The reason I chose the word and that year, which seemed like a weird word to a lot of people, but was because to remind me that I don't have to just be one thing, do one thing. You know, I can have more than one thing. I'd been working with some business people and, you know, we were doing the niche down and find your audience and this, that, and the other thing. Uh-huh. And a lot of what I wanted to do pertained to more than one group.
Yeah.
And so I was really struggling with this and rebelling against it a lot.
Yeah. Oh, duh.
I know, right?
I'm so surprised.
I know. Me rebel? No way.
What?
Concepts. So I don't know if I read something or whatever, but one day it hit me, you know what? You can have and. You know, most entrepreneurs don't have one thing they focus on.
Right.
They have multiple things they focus on.
Yeah.
And they go back and forth, and some need more energy than others, you know? Sometimes they'll get something started and it can kind of run itself almost. So I just shifted my thinking into this and thinking that if I come up with stuff that I really, really feel passionate about, mm-hmm. I can be passionate about more than one thing.
Right. You can be passionate about both and do both.
Mm-hmm. Or 3 or 4 things, you know,
right.
Which sometimes happens, you know, depending on how it takes my energy away. But yeah, I mean, if I can organize it well enough to manage it, then, and plus that keeps me interested. Because focusing only on one thing, I was thinking about this. There's been a lot of emails going around about simplification. And I can do that to a point, and I really want to do that to a point.
Miss Essentialism, I think so.
But there's one place I cannot do that, and that's my wardrobe, because I get bored wearing the same thing all the time.
Oh, right. You're not a Steve Jobs, black turtleneck and black pants. I'm like, gross.
Yeah, but there's some people that having that sort of uniform, you know, is mm-hmm. important to them and helps them, you know, their day go smoother. For me, I like going in my closet. What do I feel like?
Yeah, how am I feeling today?
Mm-hmm.
That's true, you do. Because sometimes you come in those really funky pants, and they're like, what?
Yeah,
the 70s are here.
Sometimes I come in my overalls.
I love it. Right. Exactly. Well, I think it makes a lot of sense. I've been going through this evolution, this work in my work of creating a career boot camp for women, and it kicks off next week. And during the process, I've had women who are interested at a different level, because the boot camp that's kicking off next week is for women who are going back to work after, you know, an extended time out at mm-hmm. home, taking care of people, whatever. But there's this whole another like critical mass of people who've been coming to me who are at a different level. You know, they make 6 figures, whatever, you know, they're professional. They've been out for 5 months out of a, 6-figure job or whatever. So that's like a whole different thing. So I went, well, I can do both.
Yep.
And I can change up one of those groups, because typically I only coach single-sex groups. However, a guy has come to me who I think is a perfect fit for that second group, so I'm going to do both, and I'm going to change one of them up.
Yep.
So there's the both and, you know.
And that both and thing, the thing I like about it, just for my personality type, is the flexibility.
Yeah.
You know, we talk about things like that, and I enjoy having being able to be flexible.
Right.
I mean, everything I've ever done has been kind of that way. And I think that's part of a growth mindset, is that flexibility and that both and thinking, that, you know, there are more options.
Good. Well, I think it's both. I can do both, and I can change something up. It's like you said, it is about flexibility. It's about opening your mind to the possibilities instead of like automatically shutting it down. And when you open to both, like my coaching stuff, it's my goal for the year is to build up my groups.
Yeah.
You know, my small group coaching, well, boom, there it was. You know, why try to force it into something else when I can both add a group and expand the way I do groups? You know, it's a really powerful combination.
Well, and it's funny, I think back to high school because my class, I remember even way back in third grade, my third grade teacher mentioned how cliquey our class was. And it really was. But at the same time, you know, if there was a something that affected the entire class, my class would probably come together like nobody's business.
Right.
But when I was in high school, I didn't belong to any one clique. I always flitted around between different groups.
Yeah.
And that to me, having that flexibility, and I didn't have to be just, you know, one person. This isn't just me.
Yeah.
Right here, I'm all over the place.
Right. You can both be in another group and...
And I really enjoyed that, because everybody gave me value, and I could give value in multiple ways.
Right.
And it expanded who I was by being exposed to all these different people.
I think that's true. I think that's very true. I was working with a potential client this morning, and she's talking about retiring sometime in the future, and it was like almost an either or. I said, well, why don't we do both and? Why don't we look at both and figure out, you know, what it is you want to do? A lot of times that both and is, let's look at two things and do a next step.
Yes.
Right? Let's look at two things. It's not always and eliminate it. It can be, let's look at both things and figure out how we can do both things, and what does that lead to?
Yeah. Yes.
What does that lead to?
Oh, I totally agree. You know, there's a lot of people who want to do things and don't realize they can have this side gig or this hobby or whatever.
Right.
Because they can't see how that's going to fit where they are right now.
Well, they can't figure out the first step.
Yes.
That's always the trick, right? Is you know, both knowing what you want to do and having the next step. So both and is a real project management kind of thing too. You know, they're usually a couple of pieces, and what do you do next? You know, I'm going to cook dinner, and then, you know, you know, there's just a lot of constructs like that.
Yeah. I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and the ability to, you know, that flexibility that it gives you, you don't have to do them in any specific way unless, you know, there's some reason to.
Yeah, you feel like it. You feel like you're compelled to do it. Right. The process of looking at both pieces and committing to an and just blows that up and makes that possible, because you're looking at it a different way. Is it the opposite of either or?
Yeah, I think so, actually.
Right?
Yeah, because either or assumes you only have one option.
Right. I can either do this or that. I can either, you know, what?
I mean, you have to, either or assumes you have to choose one option.
Right. I can either coach one-on-one or I can do a group. Well, no, I can do both.
Well, and I see a lot of people.
And I can serve more people.
Yeah.
So there's like a little mission that can kind of like tuck in under that and.
And it's really interesting to me because there are certain times in our lives where this becomes much more prevalent.
Like both and or either or?
Both.
Okay.
Because I think they happen and you have to choose. Are you going to be a both and person or either or person?
Oh, yeah. Talk about that.
Because,
like
well,
that.
I'm thinking, I work a lot with teens and young adults. And so it's always those transition points.
Right.
I think. So it's from high school to college. Mm-hmm. So you do have to pick a college, but you can also put in the back of your mind, if you don't get into your first choice, mm-hmm. you have the option of going to the one school and transferring.
Right.
There are always other options. Mm-hmm. If you don't like your major.
You can both choose a school and move to a different school if you need to, mm-hmm. or want to.
And you can have two majors now, mm-hmm. or two minors, or, there's a lot of ways. If you're really, really interested in something and you want to dive into it, you don't have to dive into one thing.
It's not an either or proposition. Mm-mm. Right.
And then that works all the way through when you graduate, when you're, every little transition step. I have a lot of friends that are on the border of, winding down a career mm-hmm. path. And some people take that as like the end.
Right.
And now I should retire or mm-hmm. whatever. My option is to retire. But they still have things they want to do.
Well, you can retire and you can pick up something else to do. Well, this woman I was talking to today is in finance, and she's going to retire from her job in finance, and she wants to do something else. I'm going to both retire and I'm going to do something else, and that's what she wants to explore. So there are all kinds of options in there, as long as you're willing to go, well, I'm going to do this, and it doesn't close a door, it opens one.
Yes,
right?
I like
both
that.
And is about not closing doors but opening them.
Yeah, and you were reminding me of this couple that we met on the cruise a couple weeks ago. What they have done is they looked at their, all their finances, all their options, and they really just wanted to hang out together. The kids are out of the house, and
oh yeah,
he was retiring from his one position, and they just really, fell back in love with each other and just mm-hmm. totally enjoyed each other and wanted to retire, but weren't sure how they were going to do it. And so what they do is they go and they have sort of like mini retirements for like 3 or 4 months.
Oh, I love it.
And then he goes back and he consults for like a few months.
Kind of like sabbaticals, right?
Yeah. And it just goes back and forth. So he has these consult contracts that are enough to keep them going so they can go. And they just have been doing that for the last couple of years.
Oh, I love that idea.
I know, I did too.
You can both retire and work.
Mm-hmm.
Which is that math is going to be more and more prevalent here, because retirement age it was an arbitrary thing to begin with, and now we're so much healthier. It's super arbitrary now.
Well, and I think people are understanding purpose. They're not working just for a paycheck a lot of the time. Mm-hmm. And so now they're understanding their purpose and their passion, and that they still have so much more to give.
Well, and that's my coaching, right? Is I want you to both have the paycheck you want and match the company to your personal mission. Mm-hmm. How's that doing both? It doesn't have to be a paycheck or a match, a mission. It can be both a paycheck and by the way, then you get that super duper bonus of feeling fulfilled at work.
Well, and see, I've been surrounded by this sort of attitude my whole life, because my grandfather sold his company, didn't like the way they were running it, bought it back, went on as like a board member, mm-hmm. still because he left to retire, so went on as a board member, but lived most of the time retiring, mm-hmm. and did that up until, didn't give up his seat in his office or whatever he had until he was like 99. So, and my dad is...
That's amazing.
Yeah, my dad is on, I don't even know how many boards, and a commissioner, and then runs 7 businesses. So I've been surrounded by watching this and
both and
kind of proposition.
It's kind of emblematic of your family, huh?
Yeah,
I like that. Do you think it can be like tricky to remember to switch? Like what's a strategy for if you're stuck in either or to switch to both and? How can we recognize that we're either or?
Wow, I'm trying to remember what it is that triggered me from that, because there was a moment, and I can't think of it off the top of my head, but
Well,
and it might have been something I read or something.
right?
Yeah.
To me, either or is I guess if you start feeling constrained or like there are no options, because that either or construct is a no option thing. If something's one thing or the other, there's no gray, there's nothing in between. So when we're thinking in zero sum terms, I can, if I don't do this, this isn't going to happen or whatever. I think that's a clue. If you're
absolutely.
if you catch yourself in zero sum thinking, go look for a both. Is there a both? Is there an option? Both implies an option. There's one way, and then there's a second option, right?
Well, I don't even know if it's an option. It's more of, to me, either or are two options,
right?
But there's a single answer,
right?
There's a right way or whatever. There's a one answer. The both and is, oh, hold on, they're both the right answer. Mm-hmm. How can I make, how can I create a balance? How can I create, how can I keep them both?
Oh, I like that. How can I create a balance? That's a great construct.
Because you're going to have to juggle if you're going to do an and life.
Right. A both and.
Yeah. Uh-huh. You're going to have to be able to create some sort of balance, some sort of give and take. And it's not going to be even. That's the one thing I always hate when people think of balance. I always think it's got to be even. I have to do 50% here and 50% there. No, you give what's necessary for each.
Well, I just call it surface tension, right? You just want to maintain that surface tension and not like drop below the water line. And that's, you keep adding things and you add drops of water and you're maintaining the tension that keeps everything going. So, the whole balance thing is so. Well, I don't know who thought of that, but I'd like to slap them. Just saying. Well, because it's ridiculous. There's no such thing. My therapist once looked at my husband and goes, "What are you talking about? That is some kind of pie in the sky. Somebody's retired, working, work life. No, it doesn't exist. You just do the best you can every day, and just don't sweat it."
Yeah. And I think when you live both and too, you get, not only are you seeing the options, but you're seeing the potential of yourself, and you're allowing some of that passion, the things that you really, really enjoy doing. Because I think early on we were sold a bill of goods that, you get to work, you work this job, there's the old construct of you work till you get your gold watch, then you retire, blah, blah, blah. And it's just like this very linear thing. Right. Where living a both and life is not linear at all. It's bouncy and got clover leaves and it's,
I can both make a living and really enjoy it at the same time.
Exactly.
I can make a living and grow. I can make a living and
have a family.
Yeah.
I can put my family first and make a living. Whatever your priorities are, and this goes back to a lot of the essentialism.
I knew it always comes back to essentialism when it's a both and, when it's a really mindset deal, right?
Yes, because you have to figure out those things that are the most important to you and that you are passionate about and that you really enjoy. Because why live a life that you do not enjoy?
Right. Well, both and is a discernment thing. I just played a video of the first section of essentialism at my meetup this week.
Oh.
And, the final part was discernment, which I'd forgotten, of the first section, right? And to do a both and, you have to be discerning because you're really thinking, because that implies choices and deep thinking as opposed to just willy-nilly, I'm going to do this, I'm going to take this and run. Excuse me. I guess I was just talking about me. So it's a thing. It's about discernment.
Yeah.
I can do both and here's what it takes. Here's why I would do it. More of a, a more thoughtful choice.
Yeah. Because when you do a both and kind of life, you have to have a buy-in. You have to really, especially in order to balance it out and stuff, you have to really want it.
Yeah.
And because you are going to have to do a little bit of juggling, but if you're enjoying it, if you're nurturing all these areas of your life and honoring all these areas of your life, then, it to me, it's just like the lead to, a happy life.
Right. I agree. I was just thinking that, one of my big words in coaching is agency. And both and is about exercising agency in your life because you're making an informed choice. It's not about control. Control is a whole different topic. But it's about making the choices. Making the choices. Mine is, I just thought of this. This is a big topic with the entrepreneurs I hang out with, particularly the female ones. The guys don't seem to care at the same level about I can have both. I can work really hard. I can both work really hard and take care of myself.
Yes, yes.
And you can. Well, and then the constant, as I don't have time for this, I'm like, well, make it. It's there.
Yeah.
Just make it. You have to be, this is the discernment, right? When we were talking about discernment, this came to me. Is, yes, it's hard. But if it's a priority, it becomes very simple. There's this great YouTube video. Hold on, I got to write this down so I don't forget it. About having enough time.
Oh, yeah.
It's Laura Ingraham or something. I don't remember her name, but I'll put it in the YouTube notes. And she's talking about if your water heater breaks and it takes you 7 hours to deal with that water heater breaking, you find 7 hours to make it work.
Yes.
Because you got to have that water heater. If we treat our leisure time, our time to recover, whatever we want to call it, however we want to form it up, as it's as important as fixing that hot water heater, all of a sudden there's time.
Yeah. And you know what's, as you're saying that, I realized that, especially living around here,
Right.
I learned to build time into my schedule. First, just to get from point
traffic.
A to
I knew traffic was the first thing, right?
Yeah, to get from point A to point B. But the other thing I do is it kind of goes with my sense of wonder and everything else. If I have, let's say I can get to point A to point B and the traffic is really late one day, then I sort of look at where I'm going to be around. So I have a chance to explore or check out a store or something like that. So there's this, I can get to my appointment and I can, find something else to do.
Right. I think I like that. I like that a lot. We forget, again, it's about agency. See, what you were talking about wasn't control. It was agency. It was making the choices to have what you want. So I was talking to a woman I coach sometimes yesterday, and she's working so hard and doing all this. And I'm like, what are you doing? Why? Well, I'm like, sorry, no. And she posted on Facebook, well, because of Becky Elkins-Berry, I stopped work at 5:30 yesterday. I'm like, you have choices. Say no. Say no. You have agency. If you have your own business, particularly, you have agency. Use it.
Yes.
Use it.
Yeah, I had a really hard time with that with working out when I first started my business because I felt like I had to be at my business all the time.
Right.
And I didn't equate that working out was going to contribute to my health, which was going to contribute to my business.
Right.
It took me a long time to wrap my head around that.
Right. Well, mine is reading, right?
Mine
is reading. When I'm reading, I'm not working. Well, that's not true. I'm reading Essentialism. I'm reading a coaching book. I'm reading a whatever. I'm both reading, which I love to do. Therefore, I don't think of it as work. And I'm working. It's just a big shift.
It is.
And you just shift by practicing.
Yeah, you do.
I've taught myself on days I don't want to get up and out of the bed and work. I just go get one of the books I'm reading, workbooks, and I bring it to bed and I read it in the bed. So there you go.
Yeah. What can I
still need to read it. I can both be in the bed and be working. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's what can I do today?
Yeah.
Instead of what haven't I done? Looking at the day in the hindsight, what haven't I gotten done?
Right.
It's what can I do? What can I do? I've got 30 minutes. What can I do in this 30 minutes?
Right. Exactly. Oh, I could edit the podcast. I always forget that one. I'm trying to put little Post-it notes everywhere. Edit the podcast, Becky. Podcast.
Well,
because I'll go, wait, I should have done that 2 days ago.
Well, and sometimes for me, doing the notes isn't quite as easy, but I love, I can get into the graphic very quickly, and I've gotten very good at finding my images rather quickly.
Oh, that is nice.
And so I've got sort of a system, so it's like, oh, hold on, I can do this while I'm waiting in this space.
Right. Well, I have to have my heavy-duty equipment, but it's still it's still just a matter of getting it in a place where I can, both get that edited in a timely fashion and do all my other stuff.
But and that applies to anything, laundry, dishes, all that kind of stuff, or even the bigger things, bigger projects. What can you break down into smaller chunks that you can do to contribute to it?
Right. Well, I can both work and have a load of laundry washing at the same time. Right. Thank you for Hello Siri and my, ability to set a timer. So, yeah.
But yeah, for me, at the end of the day, the both and life is how I'm living in more joy.
There you go.
Because I don't limit myself.
I like that. I was thinking about the joy word. I was like, for you, yes. I totally get that. I was like, so what does it do for me? Both and. I think it's peace. No, peaceful's the wrong word. What am I going for here? Less stressful.
Yeah.
Less stressful.
I think it takes you a little bit more out of your head and into your heart because you're allowing, it's more of a freedom, I think.
Possibilities.
Yeah.
Possibilities. Well, the agency thing, right? There you go. It's all about the agency and discernment. All those big words. All right. Cool. Both and. I love it. All right, we'll be right back. We'll figure out what our stamp of brilliance is. I told her to ring the bell really loud, and she knocks it over. I love it. I love my job.
All right, the stamp of brilliance today is either or closes doors, both and keeps them open.
Hoorah. I like that.
I do too. Good job. All right. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed the podcast, please share it with a friend. Also take a minute to rate it and leave a review on iTunes. Check out our website at uniquelybrilliant.me and sign up to have the podcast delivered directly to your inbox. Shoot any thoughts, comments, suggestions to us at uniquelybrilliant.me. You can find us on YouTube and also reach out to our Facebook page, and don't forget to like us.
Until next time.